So this is the other side of my side yard tapestry that I also installed last year. Most of the plants on this corner, they actually survive, since this one, it gets a little bit of shade. It's not really a uh, direct sun or afternoon sun compared to the other side of it, since this one is close to the house. It gets shades. So just like what I've said, most of the plants that I planted here in this corner, they all survived. Is The only difference now is that I kind of modified it and added some more plants, since as I learn as I go. And I also would like to have my own design rather than just copying the ones that I saw online. And getting better of handling this, not just me knowing about the plants, but learning how and what to partner them with to make them even stand out. So that red boulder is still there, and the ghosty that I planted on the pot, they're still there too. I actually took some cuttings on that and planted it somewhere else, since they're getting bigger. So I trimmed them and planted the cuttings all over my yard. This topsy turvy, since I used plastic pots, it's kind of getting damaged because of the sun. It's not as good as they were the first time that I installed them. So I would probably replace them with terracotta, since I also have terracottas all over my yard. So I would replace them with something sturdier, so they wouldn't get damaged, just like this. And over there, the center of the plants that I have there is the Aeonium sunburst. Now, this is one of my favorite succulents, and as you can see, it is thriving and it got really big. It's even throwing some pups there, which it looks spectacular. It's gotten so heavy, so I placed that mini boulder underneath just for it to have a support. And I know this plant is continuously growing, and in time this plant will get even bigger and will throw a lot of pups. I planted an Aeonium Swartkopf behind it just to have a contrast with it, and I know they will look great together. This aloe arborescence, it got bigger, but not too big that it would take this whole area. It's thriving as long as I know that the plant is healthy. That's all that matters to me. Now the echeverias that I also planted on this section that I also created, they also actually, there's only one that died. It got fried, since it's actually closer here on the where the sun hits it directly. So that one, it fried. So I replaced it with um, agave blue glow. This one is one of my favorites, agave, and one of the most beautiful agaves out there. So I planted it here. And when this agave, when it hits the sun, it has this red, looks like a red shade on its leaves that reflects the sun, which it's really spectacular when the sun hits it. So here, just like what I said on my other video, because this the area where I live in, we get a lot of wind. Sometimes the gardeners would come in and they would blow the pebbles. So now they went all over the place. I will fix them eventually, but for now, I focus more on the plants and how I would design them. This one, it's the same thing that I planted last year, the aloe blue elf. And this Kalanchoe here. I just added that little pot behind it, and I planted also some succulents, just to just to have a contrast of red and green in the background, and I think they play good together. Here, this is also new since I have this elephant ears. I repurposed it and planted it here, and placed a mini boulder and an animal garden to make it look good there. And in front of it, it's an agave perii. So when this one grows big, it's gonna have this good effect in front of that boulder. And here I put another mini boulder, and then I planted it and surrounded it with different kinds of plants. It's one of the things that I've seen online, and I thought that I should give it a try and let's see how it's gonna play out. And I really like it. It's something new that I haven't done, and I would see when these plants grow how it's gonna look like. Over there, I added this one too. What I did was, since I this red ive's actually one of my favorite plants, since this one is tough. I planted it in this pot, and I surrounded it with mini boulders and mix it with some other plants there in the pot as well. And behind it is a blue elf aloe. All aloes right now, all of the aloes that I have, they're all blooming, and they really look good in the garden, since it gives a contrast um, to the design that I have. And right there, I have an animal garden, which I always incorporate to every design that I have. I think it kind of put like a statement, like how the design is. I know right now the the staging of my pebbles, or the dressing, it's not as nice as it was when I first installed it, but it's something that I can work on easily, since I have bags of pebbles that I can just work on eventually, once I find the time, and once I would decide what really, or what color, what kind of pebbles I would mix them up with. Here, this is another arborescens aloe that I also planted, and it's still there. I didn't change anything. Right next to it is, I think that one is a drunk bottle. I This one was actually planted in front of my yard, where the afternoon sun hits it, and it kind of looked sad. So I decided to just to just replant it in this corner. Here I have another aloe and a blue elf right there, and the pot of gold that I created to my previous video. The center of it is also an aeonium, and it gotten big too. I mean, most of the plants that's planted in there, they all gotten big, and they all look amazing. And here, this is a kiwi. I actually I actually got a lot of cuttings from this plant, where I scattered them also all over my yard. So this is really useful to me, and it also gotten a lot bigger compared to when I first planted it. This one is a Echeveria. Um, I forgot what's the name. I think it is not a lipstick, but it's kind of painted Echeveria, since it's green and it has some red on the leaf. I planted it here, and then I just put this mini boulders in front and behind it. This Kalanchoe it's the same plant that I planted here. It gotten bigger now. I also put those boulders, mini boulders around it. I don't know what to do with them yet, but I just put them there, and then later on I will just go ahead and fix them. This one is also planted in the pot in front of my yard, and as you can see, it got burned. This is a Ionium sunburst, so I decided to put it here since it's shady, and I would wait for it until it recovers. Blue elf is also one thing that another plant that I planted that originally been planted in this area. And down there, um, I just added that Echeveria black prince next to the Echeveria rose, um, right there. So I put them right next to each other. I think it complements the color contrast. And here, the Echeveria that I planted, they're also going to bloom soon, and they would shoot some flower stalk. I'm actually deciding to just cut that off since the mother plant it's gonna throw a lot of its energy rather than focusing on growing. So I don't want to disrupt the growing part. Here is the bird bat that I also planted in here. um, those plants that I think those are blue chalks that I planted under, they got so big I would probably have to trim them eventually and to make them look low, and compact, because right now it looks like they're about to be all over the place, which they would run amok eventually. The plants on top, they also grown, and but they say compact, and which is something I really like. Here is the area that I redesigned. What I did was I actually took out all the plants that were originally planted in here and replaced them with something new. I actually gathered all these boulders all over my yard, and some are pretty darn heavy, and I extended them from here all the way there. And most of the plants that I planted here again are aloes, since aloes are tough. um, and they look spectacular, especially right now that they're blooming. The stick on fire, which is for I think every area that I have, I in my yard I have them because of its color. It just brightens up the whole area. That's why I really enjoy having this plant around. In each corner, I have arborescens aloe as well that I planted here. Some aeonium. This one is a sunburst, but this one actually looks different from the sunburst that I have. I know it's variegated, but the way the flower is, or the plant is forming, it's more of like a rounded, it's kind of like a saucer one compared to the ones that I have there, which it's actually the leaves are a lot thinner compared to this one. I don't know what kind of or if there's any difference as far as the sunburst, but this one I'm really liking this one a lot. I just wish that I have another one, but since it's growing a pup right there, maybe I could just let cut that and replant it somewhere else. But for now, I'm just gonna let it ride. Um, enjoy it, and just let it sit there. Here I planted some agaves as well. There's another tuxedo there. There's a quad collar, an aloe arborescens, and star aloe or soap aloe. That's the one that I'm talking about. Another sunburst, which is different from the one that I just showed you. Here, okay, of course, I always have to put a garden animal to make it like a statement for my design. Here, another pachypodium. I don't know where I found the courage to plant this or handle this, since this one is a lot of thorns. A cactus there, an echeveria down here. I know this echeveria will survive and will do well, since this one is part shady, and I know Echeveria doesn't like direct sun. And here how it looks like from the other end. And here's my other section of the side yard. So I already completed this look. um, it I had a lot of fun installing this tapestry, and now it's over a year since the last time that I have installed it. It's just such give me it gives me this this sense of accomplishment that I have created something like this, and it somehow relieve me from the daily stress that life is giving, just by looking at this and enjoying the outcome of the work that I did, since I I put a lot of effort on putting this together. I know over time that my skills is getting better as far as handling this and as far as the designing wise, but for now this is what I can offer to my yard. And if anything that I would that would cross my mind, or would see something that would like to incorporate, I'm pretty sure this I could always make some changes and improvise this, since these plants are tough, and they don't really mind getting pulled and replanted somewhere else compared to the traditional plants. Because if you do that for traditional plants, it will shock them, and some of them would die. Only thing that I hate about this is there's some weeds that actually grew, so I'm gonna have to pull them one by one. I don't want to use any weed killer, because I'm afraid that I might kill the plant along the way as well. And pulling weeds, I kind of find it therapeutic as well. It's relaxing. So this is the complete side yard that I have, and I just words can't really describe how much I enjoy this section in my yard. I call this my mini oasis. It's kind of like a small park for me. This is where I spend a lot of my time when I'm at home, when I just want to relax. I just walk here and enjoy the plants that I planted, and enjoy the my labor of work. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching.